My mom hit me at the restaurant for not paying my brother's $300 bill, so I left her there and blocked her number. If you're just tuning in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And please show us some love with a like. And comment below to let us know where you're tuning in from. The scent of garlic and rosemary filled the upscale restaurant as she sat across from her family, her fingers drumming nervously against the white tablecloth. The evening had started innocently enough. A family dinner to celebrate her recent promotion at the law firm. But now, staring at the astronomical bill sliding across the table toward her, Naomi Allison felt her stomach drop like a stone. $300? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the clinking of silverware from nearby tables. Her younger brother Fabian leaned back in his chair, that familiar smirk playing across his lips as he picked his teeth with a toothpick. What? I was hungry, Fabian shrugged, gesturing at the empty plates that had once held lobster, premium steaks, and top-shelf whiskey. Besides, you're the one with the fancy job now, sis. Their mother, Loretta, nodded approvingly while adjusting her church hat. That's right, baby. Family takes care of family. You know how hard it's been since your daddy passed. Naomi's chest tightened. 6 months. It had been 6 months since her father's funeral, and Fabian had been bleeding her dry ever since. First it was rent money, then car payments. Now this elaborate dinner she never agreed to pay for. I didn't say I was covering this, Naomi said firmly, sliding the bill back across the table. The leather folder made a soft thud against Fabian's water glass. The temperature in their corner booth seemed to drop 10 degrees. Loretta's smile faded, replaced by that hard expression Naomi knew all too well, the one that meant trouble was brewing like a storm on the horizon. Fabian's laugh was sharp and bitter, cutting through the restaurant's gentle ambience like broken glass. Oh, so now you're too good for your own family? He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I remember when you were 16 and pregnant, begging Mama not to kick you out. Naomi's face burned with humiliation as nearby diners glanced their way. That was Fabian's specialty, weaponizing her past mistakes whenever he needed ammunition. That was 15 years ago, Fabian. I was a child. A child who made grown-up mistakes, Loretta interjected, her voice cold as winter rain. And who's been acting brand new ever since she got that college degree. The waiter approached hesitantly, clearly sensing the tension crackling between them like live electrical wires. Is everything all right here? Can I get you anything else? Just the check, please, Naomi said politely, but her mother's hand shot out to stop the young man. Actually, my daughter here will be taking care of everything tonight, Loretta announced loudly, her voice carrying to nearby tables. She's doing real well for herself now. Isn't that right, Naomi? Naomi felt trapped like a mouse cornered by cats. Every eye in their section seemed to be watching, waiting to see how this family drama would unfold. Her promotion had been hard-earned, late nights studying for the bar exam, sacrificing relationships, missing family gatherings to build her career from nothing. Fabian pulled out his phone and started scrolling through social media, completely unbothered by the chaos he'd created. You know what, sis? Maybe you should just pay up and stop embarrassing Mama. The weight of expectation pressed down on Naomi's shoulders like a heavy blanket. She could feel the stares from other patrons, their whispered conversations creating a symphony of judgment around their table. Her mother's eyes bore into her with the intensity of a laser, while Fabian continued his nonchalant phone scrolling. I work 60-hour weeks to afford my own bills, Naomi said, her voice steady but strained. I'm not a bank, Fabian. But your family, Loretta snapped, her voice rising an octave. Or have you forgotten where you come from now that you're wearing fancy suits and living in that white neighborhood? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Naomi had moved to a better area for safety, not status. After her apartment was broken into twice in 6 months, she'd saved every penny to get somewhere secure. But to her family, success was betrayal, a departure from their shared struggle. Fabian finally looked up from his phone, his expression calculating. Remember when Daddy got sick? Who took care of the medical bills while you were busy playing lawyer? His words dripped with manufactured righteousness. I sent money every month for 2 years, Naomi protested, but her voice was losing strength. The familiar pattern was emerging. Fabian creating chaos, their mother backing him up, and Naomi being painted as the villain for having boundaries. Pocket change. Loretta muttered, adjusting her purse strap like she was preparing for battle. Your brother quit his job to take care of your daddy full-time. He was unemployed anyway, Naomi whispered, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. The truth was complicated, messy, and apparently irrelevant in this moment of manufactured crisis. The waiter returned with nervous energy, clearly wanting to escape the family drama unfolding at table 12. He placed the leather bill folder between them like he was defusing a bomb, then quickly retreated to the safety of the kitchen. Fabian reached for the folder with theatrical flair, opening it slowly as if he were unveiling a masterpiece. $347, he announced, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Plus tip, of course. Naomi's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass. The ice clinked against the sides, creating a tiny percussion that matched her racing heartbeat. She'd worked so hard to escape the cycle of financial manipulation that had defined her childhood, always being asked to sacrifice, to give, to prove her love through money. I'll split it 3 ways, she offered, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a compromise, a lifeline she was throwing into the churning waters of family expectation. Loretta's face twisted with disgust. Split it? Baby, you make more in a month than most people see in 6. Don't insult us with your charity. It's not charity, Mama. It's fairness. Fairness. Fabian laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Was it fair when I had to drop out of college to work 3 jobs after Daddy got laid off? Was it fair when I couldn't afford to take Shanice to prom because we needed grocery money? Each word was a carefully aimed arrow, designed to find the soft spots in Naomi's armor. She remembered those struggles, remembered the shame of wearing secondhand clothes and eating government cheese. But she also remembered the choices. Fabian dropping out to deal drugs, not to work legitimate jobs. The restaurant's gentle jazz music seemed to mock the tension crackling between the Allison family members. Naomi felt like she was drowning in a sea of expectation and manipulation, each wave pulling her further from shore. You know what your problem is? Loretta leaned forward, her voice dropping to that dangerous tone Naomi remembered from childhood, the one that preceded swift and brutal punishment. You think you're better than us now. That's not true, Naomi protested, but her mother wasn't finished. Living in your fancy apartment, driving that new car, shopping at those boutique stores downtown. You've forgotten who raised you, who sacrificed for you. Fabian nodded along like a congregation member responding to a powerful sermon. Remember when you got arrested for shoplifting? Who bailed you out? Who lied to the police to keep you from getting a record? The memory hit like a physical blow. Naomi had been 17 and desperate, stealing formula for her infant daughter while working minimum wage. Her mother had indeed saved her that night, spinning an elaborate lie about medication mix-ups and confused teenagers. I was trying to feed my baby, Naomi whispered, her voice cracking. And now you can't feed your family? Loretta's eyes glittered with something cold and calculating. Your brother has been struggling since the factory closed. He's got rent due, bills piling up, and here you are counting pennies like some stranger. The guilt was overwhelming, flooding through Naomi's chest like poison. She could feel her carefully constructed boundaries crumbling under the weight of family history and manufactured obligation. Her hands shook as she reached for her purse. Fine, she whispered, hating herself even as the word escaped her lips. The leather wallet felt impossibly heavy in Naomi's hands as she pulled out her credit card. The small piece of plastic represented hours of work, sacrificed weekends, and dreams deferred. But family was family, and the weight of expectation was crushing her resolve. That's my girl, Loretta smiled, but the expression didn't reach her eyes. I knew you'd do the right thing. Fabian leaned back in his chair with satisfied smugness, already scrolling through his phone again as if the drama had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Appreciate you, sis. Family first, right? But as Naomi placed the card on the bill folder, something inside her rebelled. Maybe it was the casual way Fabian dismissed her sacrifice, or the calculating gleam in her mother's eyes. Maybe it was the memory of every other time she'd been guilt-tripped into financial submission. Actually, she said quietly, pulling the card back, no. The word hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Loretta's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, then rage so pure it was almost beautiful in its intensity. Excuse me, her mother's voice was deadly quiet. I said no. Naomi's voice grew stronger with each word. I didn't agree to pay for this dinner. I came here to celebrate my promotion with family, not to be ambushed with a bill I never agreed to cover. Fabian's head snapped up from his phone, his eyes narrowing dangerously. So you're really going to embarrass us like this? In front of all these people? You embarrassed yourselves. Naomi stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I'm done being your personal item. The slap came so fast that Naomi barely registered the movement before her mother's palm connected with her cheek. The sound echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot, silencing conversations and drawing every eye to their corner booth. Naomi's face burned, not just from the physical impact but from the crushing humiliation of being struck like a child in front of strangers. Her hand instinctively rose to her stinging cheek as she stared at her mother in shock. How dare you disrespect me like this? Loretta hissed, her voice trembling with rage. I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it. The restaurant had gone completely silent except for the soft jazz music that now seemed obscenely cheerful. Waiters froze mid-stride, diners stopped chewing, and even the kitchen sounds seemed muted. Naomi could feel dozens of eyes boring into her, witnessing her humiliation in high definition. Fabian's mouth fell open in surprise. Even he hadn't expected their mother to escalate to violence. Mama, maybe we should. Shut up, Fabian, Loretta snapped without taking her eyes off Naomi. Your sister needs to learn some respect. Naomi's vision blurred with tears of rage and humiliation. In that moment, 15 years of education, professional success, and carefully built dignity crumbled away. She was 17 again, cowering under her mother's wrath, accepting abuse as the price of family loyalty. But something had changed. The scared teenager was gone, replaced by a woman who had fought for every achievement, every promotion, every moment of peace in her life. Don't you ever? Naomi's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried across the silent restaurant like thunder. Put your hands on me again. The manager appeared at their table like a nervous ghost, his face pale and hands trembling as he tried to navigate the explosive family drama that had erupted in his establishment. Other diners were pulling out phones, some recording, others presumably calling for help. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask your party to settle this outside, he said diplomatically, his voice barely steady. We have other guests to consider. Loretta turned her fury on the young manager like a predator finding new prey. Don't you tell me how to discipline my daughter. This is family business. Mama, people are recording, Fabian whispered urgently, finally showing some awareness of how catastrophically this situation had spiraled. His eyes darted around the restaurant at the sea of phones pointed in their direction. But Loretta was beyond reasoning, beyond caring about public opinion or consequences. 25 years of controlling her children through guilt, manipulation, and when necessary violence had created a monster who couldn't adapt to boundaries. I don't care who's watching, she snarled. Naomi needs to remember who raised her, who sacrificed everything for her ungrateful behind. Naomi's cheeks still throbbed from the slap, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional devastation of realizing that her mother, the woman who was supposed to love and protect her, had chosen violence over understanding. You want to know what I remember? Naomi's voice was steady now, cold as winter steel. I remember working 2 jobs in high school while you spent the grocery money on scratch-off tickets. I remember raising my baby sister because you were too busy with whatever man was paying attention to you that week. The truth hung between them like a blade, sharp and unforgiving. Fabian stood up abruptly, his chair nearly toppling backward as he positioned himself between his mother and sister. Naomi, that's enough, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Even he knew their family history was built on a foundation of convenient lies and selective memory. Is it enough? Naomi's voice rose, carrying across the restaurant to every captivated audience member. Is it enough that I've been financially supporting both of you for years while you treat me like a walking paycheck? Is it enough that I get slapped in public for having boundaries? A woman at a nearby table whispered loudly to her companion, someone should call the police. The words sent a chill through Fabian. The last thing their family needed was law enforcement involvement. Loretta's face contorted with a mixture of rage and desperation. She could feel control slipping away, could sense that the power dynamic that had defined their family for decades was crumbling in real time. Everything I did was for you children, she said, her voice taking on a martyred tone. Every sacrifice, every struggle, every sleepless night worrying about how to keep food on the table. While dating men who stole from us, Naomi shot back. While choosing drugs over your children. While letting Fabian run wild in the streets because it was easier than parenting. The restaurant manager was frantically signaling to his staff, clearly preparing to call security or police if the situation escalated further. Other patrons were gathering their belongings, some leaving early to escape the family implosion happening in real time. Fabian grabbed his mother's arm. "We need to go. Now." But Loretta jerked away from him, her attention laser-focused on her daughter with the intensity of a woman who felt her entire world crumbling around her. "You think you can just abandon your family because you got a little education?" Loretta's voice cracked with desperation and fury. "You think those white people at your job care about you? You're nothing to them, just another token to make them feel good about themselves." The racist undertones of her mother's manipulation hit Naomi like ice water. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about identity, belonging, and the complex intersection of family loyalty and personal growth in the Black community. "My success isn't a betrayal of my race, Mama," Naomi said quietly, her voice carrying despite its softness. "And it's not a betrayal of this family. But I won't let you use our shared struggle as a weapon against me." A Black couple at a corner table nodded slightly in recognition. They understood the dynamics at play, the way family could become a trap, the guilt associated with moving up and leaving people behind, the impossible balance between personal achievement and community loyalty. Fabian looked around nervously at all the phones still recording. "This is going to be all over social media by tomorrow," he muttered. "Good," Naomi said firmly. "Let people see what really happens when you try to set boundaries with toxic family members." The word toxic hit Loretta like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her hand clutching her chest dramatically. "Toxic? Your own mother is toxic? After everything I sacrificed for you?" "Sacrifice isn't a license for abuse," Naomi replied, her voice steady and clear. "Love isn't supposed to hurt this much." The simple truth of that statement seemed to echo through the restaurant, reaching not just her family but every person who had ever struggled with complicated family dynamics. The restaurant manager returned with 2 security guards, their presence immediately changing the energy in the room. Other diners began to relax slightly, knowing that professional help had arrived to manage the situation. "Ladies, I need to ask you to take this outside," the larger security guard said diplomatically but firmly. "We can't have this level of disruption in the restaurant." Loretta turned her attention to the security guards with renewed fury. "My daughter owes us money. She can't just leave us with this bill." "Actually, ma'am, she can," the manager interjected quietly. "Each person is responsible for what they personally ordered unless there was a prior agreement otherwise." Fabian's face went pale as the reality of the situation hit him. He had ordered extravagantly, assuming his sister would cover the costs as she had so many times before. Now, facing a bill he couldn't afford and a sister who had finally found her backbone, he was trapped. "Naomi, please," he said, his voice taking on a wheedling tone. "I'll pay you back. You know I'm good for it." "When?" she asked simply. "When have you ever paid me back? The rent money from last month? The car payment from 3 months ago? The $2,000 I lent you for emergency dental work that you spent on a weekend in Vegas?" Each specific example landed like a physical blow, documenting years of financial manipulation and broken promises. Fabian opened his mouth to protest, then closed it again, realizing he had no defense against the truth. "This is different," he said weakly. "No," Naomi said, pulling her purse strap over her shoulder. "This is exactly the same. Except this time I'm saying no." The walk to the restaurant exit felt like a mile-long journey through hostile territory. Every step was measured, deliberate, final. Naomi could feel her family's shock and rage radiating behind her like heat from a fire, but she didn't turn around. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back," Loretta called out, her voice carrying across the restaurant with the authority of a woman who had controlled through ultimatums her entire life. Naomi paused at the entrance, her hand on the glass door. For a moment, the weight of potential loss threatened to crush her resolve. This was her family, flawed, complicated, toxic, but still the people who had shaped her childhood and shared her history. "I love you both," she said without turning around. "But I love myself too. And I'm done sacrificing my peace of mind for your comfort." The evening air hit her face like a baptism as she stepped outside. Behind her, she could hear Fabian frantically calling someone, probably trying to borrow money to cover the bill. She could hear her mother's voice rising in pitch, probably creating an even bigger scene now that she was gone. But for the first time in years, Naomi felt light. The weight of obligation, guilt, and family manipulation had been lifted from her shoulders like a heavy coat she'd finally learned she didn't have to wear. She pulled out her phone and blocked both their numbers before she could change her mind. The digital silence felt profound. No more late-night calls for money, no more guilt trips about family loyalty, no more being treated like an ATM with emotional buttons. As she waited for her rideshare, Naomi realized she was smiling. 3 weeks later, Naomi sat in her therapist's office, finally unpacking years of family trauma she'd buried under the guise of loyalty and love. Dr. Juliet Gibson listened without judgment as Naomi described the restaurant incident and its aftermath. "How do you feel about your decision now?" Dr. Gibson asked. "Peaceful," Naomi replied, surprising herself with the honesty of the answer. "I thought I'd feel guilty, but mostly I feel free." Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, probably Fabian using someone else's phone to try to reach her. She glanced at it briefly, then deleted it without reading the full message. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," Dr. Gibson said gently. "That night at the restaurant, someone posted a video online. It's gone viral." Naomi's stomach clenched. "Oh God." "The comments are overwhelmingly supportive," Dr. Gibson continued. "Thousands of people sharing their own stories about setting boundaries with toxic family members. You've become something of an inspiration." Later that evening, Naomi finally looked at the video. There she was, standing up to her mother's manipulation, refusing to be slapped into submission, walking away with dignity intact. The woman in the video was strong, self-possessed, unashamed. He recognized that woman. It was who she'd always been underneath the layers of guilt and obligation. Someone worthy of respect, love, and boundaries. Her phone buzzed with a friend request from someone named Safira Coleman, along with a message. "Girl, I saw your video. My mama did the same thing to me last Christmas. Thank you for showing me it's okay to walk away." Naomi smiled and accepted the request. Maybe her pain could become someone else's freedom. Maybe that made it all worthwhile. If you're just tuning in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And please show us some love with a like. And comment below to let us know where you're tuning in from.